Today we'll be discussing the problem of companies lying and how it appears in the novel 1984 by George Orwell, and as well as in real life. In 1984, the government of Oceania, led by the party, controls all forms of communication and information. The party uses its power to control the minds of citizens through manipulation of language, known as newspeak, and by constantly rewriting history to suit its own needs. The party also uses its control of information to manipulate the economy and maintain its grip on power. Take the 2 minutes hate, for example. Similarly, in real life, we have seen instances of companies lying in order to maintain their power and control over the market. Studies have shown that 20% of companies lie in earning reports, and that almost all companies lie in some shape or form to gain an edge. We will start by examining quotes of how this appears in 1984. And if all others accepted the lie which the party imposed, if all records told the same tale, then the lie passed to history and became truth. Who controls the past, ran the party slogan, controls the future. Who controls the present, controls the past. This quote shows how the Ministry of Truth can manipulate the minds of people and control people, forcing them to believe things that are not true. Next, the party member, like the proletarian, tolerates present-day conditions because he has no standards of comparison. This quote further exemplifies this, showing the manipulation of all information. Now let's look at the 2-minute hate. The horrible thing about the 2-minute hate was not that one was obliged to act part, but that it was impossible to avoid joining in. The 2-minute hate is a media-defined consciousness. The people are taking in the media and joining in, thinking that it is accurate. And then Emmanuel Goldstein. Goldstein's face brings out emotions of uncomfort, fear, and anger. He's most likely not real, but he's used to manipulate the members so that they believe that the oppositions to the party are bad, and that it makes them continue to be devoted to the party. We are going to start by showing you some examples of some real versus fake food in ads. Take a guess, which one's real and which one's fake? Yeah, it's pretty obvious, isn't it? This happens with food stylists. They work to make the food look more appealing in appearance while maintaining that fresh, natural look. The stylist's job is to manipulate and enhance it using various tools to make it as appealing as possible. For example, they may not fully cook the food to enhance the appearance of it. These food stylers use a variety of tools, including blowtorches, tweezers, toothpicks, scissors, paper, tape, glue, pins, paint oil, and glycerin to enhance the appearance of food in promotional images. By enhancing the look of the food, it makes the watcher of the ad want to buy it more, even when the reality doesn't look that nice. This is an example of how companies fool you, so they can gain an edge and get more sales from their product. Now let's talk about the cigarette and tobacco industry. The public was becoming increasingly worried about the health consequences of cigarettes. They started to refer to cigarettes as coffin nails and started talking about smokers' cough and smokers' hack. The company saw a threat to their success and business model. When health concerns about cigarettes began to receive public attention, tobacco companies took action. They capitalized on the public's trust of physicians in order to get rid of concerns about the dangers of smoking. Here are some examples of some of the ads that were shown during this time. As you can see, they used the physician, the trust that people had in the physician, to manipulate their minds to think that smoking is actually okay and that it's not unhealthy. This is just like how in the 2 minutes hate, they use lies and propaganda with a Goldstein to manipulate the party members to believe something that's just not true. The tobacco industry has basically always been deceiving the public through marketing campaigns to downplay the health risks and addictiveness of their cigarettes. This has led to loss of life worldwide. In recent years, the introduction of alternative nicotine products such as e-cigarettes has added to the misinformation, with some companies claiming that e-cigarettes are completely harmless so that they can make more money, and others competing with the e-cigarette business are exaggerating their risks. The American Heart Association explains the problems of vaping, but others try to debunk this, that the American Heart Association is misleading people. It shows the back and forth and how misleading this information can be and how confusing it can be to a consumer who just doesn't know who's right and who's wrong. This manipulation by companies competing against e-cigarettes is very similar to 1984, as they both spread false information and propaganda in order to manipulate public opinion to advance their own agendas. Quick backstory. Boeing is trying to build a brand new 737 MAX. But there's one problem. The engines are so massive that in flight, the plane would tilt upwards. They had to counteract this issue. And that's where the MCAS system came into play. So what does the MCAS system do to counteract this? Basically, if the MCAS system notices that the plane is tilting too upwards, then it will slowly, gradually push the aircraft down in order to make it a better angle of attack. So what was the problem with the MCAS system? And why was Boeing fined $2.5 billion for the placement of this single system? Well, Boeing didn't exactly deploy this system in the best way. What was the problem with the MCAS system and how it was handled by Boeing? Well, Boeing took the cheap route. The new Boeing 737 MAX was fairly similar to the previous generation. So because they had to add the new MCAS system, it would still force Boeing to have to pay for pilot training on this new system. But Boeing didn't want to do that. Jake Pat, a pilot from SkyWest Airlines, explains how expensive pilot training is.
You got to figure it. You've got two pilots that are flying, and you got a tester. So you're costing. The cost is three pilots per hour on wages, and then you got the sim itself. Our sim, like I said, I think is $600 an hour. To operate the aircraft itself, you're looking at about $2,000 to $2,500 an hour. So is it cheaper than operating the airplane? Absolutely. It saves wear and tear, but is it still expensive? Absolutely.
Boeing took the cheap route rather than the safe route, costing hundreds of lives on those horrible accident sequences. But what caused the MCAS system to be activated? Well, the plane only included one sensor to activate the system, which was once again Boeing taking the cheap route rather than the safer route to protect its clients. This is similar to how the party doesn't give the full story to its members, lies, manipulates, and uses propaganda, especially in the 2 Minutes Hate and with the Ministry of Truth. I unfortunately predict that this problem will continue to happen in the future. It's been getting more prominent and more prominent recently. Companies are lying more than ever. And I unfortunately think this will continue. Luckily though, there is some hope. With the fines that I talked about in the Boeing incident, we are starting to crack down in trying to stop these companies from lying. So hopefully in the future, it can stop. But my prediction is that this problem continues to grow even more serious. Solutions. How can we stop this? Well, individually, you can continue to educate yourself on this topic and be aware of the manipulation and not fall for the deceitfulness. And as a widespread community, we can work to make the government aware of situations of propaganda so that these companies are punished for their lies.